All right. So I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this. The Color Purple adaptation, which is based off of a Broadway musical and not really based off of the 1985 Oprah Winfrey movie. So, how do I feel about it? Well, I kind of feel the same way that white people feel when they bitch about when Hollywood goes out here and instead of coming up with like a new IP or coming up with, you know, heroes or whatever that have their own storyline. Like, okay, Will Smith and Hancock, right? From what I know, Hancock was never a white superhero. Well, so Hancock gets to stand on his own, right? But then when you got things like The Little Mermaid, and you got things like who else did they try to play, replace? Even Miles Morales, which is like the black Dominican, the Hispanic Spider-Man. Um, I'm like, why not just come up with the like it's like nobody has any imagination, but I know why they do that. It's because these companies, they control the intellectual, I guess you call it intellectual property, the licensing, for these characters. And as far as they're concerned, I paid, whatever, 125 million for the licensing of this character, and I'm going to do with this character whatever I want. They don't care about, what the general population is feeling or how white people are. It's like when they changed the formula of Coca-Cola and people were bitching about that. They were like, they're changing my childhood. They don't care about people's sentiments, but that's a whole nother conversation. They control the intellectual property, they control the licensing, and they feel that they're going to do whatever they want to do with it. But I'm just saying, I kind of feel the same way, as the white folks that are kind of like, we're being replaced, and on the black side, I personally feel I'm like, why can't we get our own shit? Why did what like all this does is create division and animosity? Maybe that's the purpose. I don't know, but I'm just saying. But anyway, moving on, talking about The Color Purple. As you all have noticed, I have moved on. From I've discovered everything I'm going to discover about the matriarchy, feminism, all that. I recognize, it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like the Cynthia G's, the divestors, and then mileage may vary with all various sisters. And personally, I think that the relationship between black men and women is I mean, it's in a bad place. I mean, this is black people who insist on engaging one another and engaging in these relationships. I try not to speak on it, right? Because I obviously have my pro-black beliefs, and some days I wish we could just skip right over that and just get to you know fixing things. But as I always say, the family unit is the fundamental unit of a community. So if you don't have your family unit together, if black men and women are not seeing eye to eye, we can pretty much forget about any other community conversation about building and all that other stuff, because it's not going to work. The motivations aren't there. The aspects of legacies and generational wealth aren't there because we don't even like each other, right? But again, I have my male bias where I see it as black women being used as a tool against black men. Not to say that black men have never been used as a tool against black women. I'd say, the biggest thing is just the way that, the expansion of the light skin universe, the ELSU, and, the exoticals, and the way that these other races of women are promoted to black men, the way that black men have been thrust into, the mainstream via sports and entertainment, and then black women have kind of, been left to the wayside. And then whenever they acknowledge black women, it's always something about some empowerment. It's never like their beauty in a vacuum, like how it is with every other race of woman, right? And so black women, deep down inside, they feel some type of way about that, right? And then they think that the empowerment shit, makes them feel good, but it really doesn't, because at the end of the day, they still feel, ugly and unattractive and undesirable, and they wail about that, right? And the way that black men move with the, I'm going over here, that doesn't help. But then at the same time, black women's behavior and the matriarchal belief systems don't help either, right? So it's like the shit at this point is spinning on its own axis. Where you got black men that are like, I can get this over the fence, and these women are better in shape and they look better and da 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 da, right? And then you get the black women that they just can't view black men in any sort of leadership position, and there's always some sort of animosity, there's always some lack of trust, there's always what's the word that I'm looking for? There's always just some, I can't get with the program type of shit. So it's always just there, just lingering in the background. And for me, I just look at it and I say that all this, black women want to be the victim, that we're going to bring back the color purple. Like, why call it the color purple? Why not call it something else? Like this, like the whole, thing could be based off of, it could be a completely different title. And then when you watch the trailer, oh, they make sure, they show you this scene where this black man, that's supposed to be Danny Glover's character, Mister, who's like, you know, he wants to get married, and you know, he, I don't know, he throws her shit off of the porch and then fires a gun at the woman's direction, and it just so happens that there's a thunderstorm and it's raining, and just I'm like we're back here again. You know what I mean? Like I'm like we're back here again. And then it just you listen to the Cynthia G. Divester bullshit. And black women are getting killed every 5.5 hours. It's same bullshit white supremacy does. You know what I mean? Like the amount the number of people that are actually committing crimes is significantly less than 1%. Like one thousandth of a percent. Sometimes it's even as low as like 1/10,000th of a percent. And it's like, yes, we will focus on the less than 1% of the population, but we will ignore the other 99% of people that don't engage in that behavior, because we want to basically say that there's this big epidemic, there's this huge problem, when there really isn't. It's the same way that like the like freaking the media runs around, and ever since COVID, yeah, we've had a spike in crime because of the economy and inflation and all that other shit. But ever since the 90s, crime rates have been going down. Like, you look at any chart about crime has been going down. But when you turn on the 6 o'clock news, is all they want to show you is negativity. All they want to show you is this bank robbery, that bank robbery, this liquor store got knocked over, or they want to show you that. You got a better chance of getting hit by lightning than to be murdered in this society. But let the gun control liberals run around and tell it. They'll act like you'll just get shot anywhere you go, and that's just not the reality. AR-15s are rarely used. Mass shootings are rare, like actual mass shootings, like when the white boys go, "Oh, I want to kill everybody." Like, that shit is rare. And then when it comes to crime, there's certain areas, everybody knows where the bad areas are. There's, there's poverty over there. Stay out of that area, and 9 times out of 10, you can pretty much avoid, the majority of the crime. You know what I mean? Like there's just common sense shit. You don't see me going, oh, let me go stand out in the middle of Diamond and Susquehanna in North Philly at 3 o'clock in the morning. Not smart, right? So again, depends on where the hell you're at. But I'm just saying, it's the same similar situation. I talk about this even when it talks about the perception of shit. It was like, like the way that they state statistics and shit like that. There's two black couples in Antarctica, and one of the women in the relation in one of the couples is the victim of domestic violence, and then the headlines will say 50% of black women in Antarctica are victims of domestic violence. You're like 50%, right? And everybody goes crazy. I personally, I just feel like black women just want to be victims. I mean, we had Antoine Fisher, but like that's about it. But if black men really made a movie and told, their stories about, their issues with black women, black women wouldn't look good. All they would be bitching. It would be, Claudia Jordan and the Queens, and they would be up there saying that black men are lying on them and all this other stuff. But I mean, it's so bad that even, their reputation on the interpersonal level is known, coming from other groups, which is why the interracial dating numbers look as abysmal as they do for many African American women. There's a lot of things that other groups of men don't like about African American women in terms of their behavior. Black men don't have we got the reputation of criminality, right? But we don't have a reputation of, and I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I'm saying we don't have a reputation of being loud and obnoxious. You know what I'm saying? You thought I was feeling you? You know what I mean? We don't have that. We don't have that reputation of just being just belligerent and irritating and annoying like that. It's like, you know, when you get into it with us, there may be some problems and shit like that. But we don't just go around. We don't have a reputation of just going around just, you know, fucking with people and making noise and ruckus and shit like that. That whole ratchet, twerking at restaurants. Black men don't go to restaurants and oh, let me get on the table and start dancing. Like, no, that's your reputation that people have showcased online. And again, black women don't want to face negativity of a lot of their reputation. They don't, again, and even when they're dressed by other black women, just like how freaking Monique went on and criticized the women for going to the airport saying, hey, we need to stop going out here in public looking like a hot mess with some shower caps and some fuzzy slippers and bonnets and shit like that. And black women roasted her. You know what I mean? I remember when For Harriet came out and was, she talking about, we need to see more of this. I forget what she was talking about. It was I think it was like a movie or a documentary or something. And she was like, we need to see more of this. I'm like, this is already your negative stereotype. What do you mean we need to see more of this? So I'm just saying, if black men really went out there and put together a movie where they were being honest and addressing, their issues, it's not going to make sisters look, too good. But I'm at a point where I just recognize, like, this has been going on my entire life. Like, this narrative has been going on my entire life of the basically the perfect black woman and the problematic black man. And like I said, me and my own personal pro blackness, I don't want to speak, like, how I want to say this. I don't want to speak against black women too much, right? Like, I know I've done it over the years addressing these issues, but what I'm saying is I don't want to shoot down the possibility of relationships and shits work and things working, with a young black man and a young black woman. Like, I don't want to instill my bias. Like, I hope that it works. You know what I mean? Like, even if I can't make it work, I'm like, I hope that it works. and poverty and wealth. This is how all these things intersect. And white people, they lose gas. They go into town hall meetings and all this other shit. And we know, like, we know it's bullshit. Like, we know that white supremacy exists in America is racist as fuck. We know that. They show us that shit every day. But then when you try to go and address it, they just blow a gasket. They lose their mind. They go start going all crazy. And that's how I look at black women. You know what I mean? I'm like, nah, they're all gonna come through. It'll be the Cynthia G types. It'll be the divestors. They're all gonna come through, swear up and down, niggas is lying, right? That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna play the victim. Throw up colorism. When all else fails, just to say colorism, right? They'll grab anything that has just a little bit of truth to it and throw it up, and throw it up against the wall and hope it sticks, right? To try to silence us. And as far as I'm concerned, like to me, it's like if you look at the trajectory of shit, it's gonna get to a point, and it's kind of already at that point, where sisters are gonna be complaining about black men and what we do to them, and going back to the color purple when we're not even fucking with them like that. You know what I mean? When you see these interracial relationship numbers, like it's already like 23% of black men marrying outside the race, right? I think it's like 9%, 10% marrying white women, and then the rest are, with others. So to try to to come up with this, we're gonna talk about Mr. and Danny Glover and present that to the world when black men are quote unquote abandoning sisters it's silly to me. You know what I mean? Like, and I've always had a problem with the way that this narrative has always been. It's like, if the black man is rich, he's abusive. If the black man is broke, he's a dusty, and the problem is he's dusty. If the black man is with a black woman, he's abusing her and putting hands on her. If the black man is not with the black woman, he's with a white woman and he's colorist and it's abandonment and the black man is not loyal to the black race. So you can't win. Like you can't win. Like I in my maturity, I recognize this shit. So I just like don't say anything. I just fall back. You know what I mean? And just watch them. Because at the end of the day, this is what I do know. And I know there's some women that they get frustrated about this, some women that have channels and make videos, they get frustrated about this because, it contributes to the idea of black male, arrogance, and women talk about the black male worship. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is what gets me about sisters. Sisters will think that they can just go out here, talk all type of crazy on black men. Black men ain't this, black men ain't that, black men, they're deleting us every 5.5 hours, they're this and they're that, right? Even though they only out here fucking a small minority of black men, right? Because they don't want the niggas that's broke. They don't want the niggas that are too short. They don't want the niggas that don't have game. They don't want the niggas that aren't, they don't have clout in the streets, right? That don't have a blue check, right? There's all these like things, like majority of dudes, and you can say this is across racial lines, but majority of black men out here are not, running through a whole bunch of women. And this is proven, by, shout out to Media Man. This is already proven with the statistics on, the fact that black women have more children than black men. I think it's like 62% to like 46% of black men, black women having kids, versus black men having kids, relatively speaking, right? 62% of black women to like 46% of black men. So we don't even have like the numbers don't even add up on that front. So the women, they're just gonna go out here and they're gonna say all this stuff, talk crazy on black men, like we're just supposed to silently sit around and just take it, right? And then at some point, and this always happens, what I mean? The chick go to the club, or she went. Now it's Saturday, right? All Monday through Friday, she was talking shit. Niggas ain't shit. Niggas ain't this. Nigga, right? All that shit, right? Then comes Saturday, she going to the club with her girlfriend. Is the girl lines out. Now all of a sudden, she wants niggas to be in her face. Now all of a sudden she want a nigga to whisper sweet nothings in her ear and romance her and everything else like that. Me, I'm still mad. I'm still pissed off at all that. I already shut it out of my brain in terms of fucking with them. You know what I mean? And I fight on a regular basis. Not trying to project that onto every sister and everything, but generally speaking, I find myself just avoiding. You know what I mean? I'm not avoiding. Like you can't tell me like if you say, hey, we're gonna go to a spot and it's gonna be majority black people and there's gonna be majority black women there. I'm gonna tell you. I'm just saying as a single guy, I'm gonna be like, nah, I'm good. Cause I'm already thinking it's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff in there that I ain't even want deal with. A bunch of women with the front lace wigs and half of them are single moms. The women that are overweight don't want to work out, wearing outfits that they shouldn't be wearing, leopard print shit. Um, and then you got the whole class aspect, you know, and then you have the reality that I'm too square. They're not gonna be into me, type of stuff. What else? What other random factors, would pop up? There was one I was just gonna mention, and it just slipped my mind. Oh, matriarchal belief systems. Whole bunch of women with the snuffleupagus eyelashes and shit. I'm good. I'm good. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's like baked in there aside both physically and the belief systems that I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. And it's sad that's how bad it's got. I was talking to Cap about the shit about, every time I was like, we were just talking and I was like, every time I mention like black women that like that are like the ones that like the quintessential ones that I used to fantasize about. Like they're all old. You know what I mean? Now, granted, I gotta recognize my own age, but I'm saying like it's like Angela Bassett, Nia Long, Kerry Washington, right? And if you notice, like none of these women have any of this like ratchet shit going on. Like none of them. You know what I mean? It's like you could take any one of them women, you just put them on your arm, and you could take them anywhere. Just go around. Jill Marie Jones, you know what I mean? You just go, anywhere you want to go, you can go. They don't got no tattoos. They don't got none of that shit. You know what I mean? Which is like the kind of like the even the stark contrast with like even this color purple, type of stuff where sisters relate to it. You know what I mean? But like you go out here in the streets and into society, and all you get is, like all you get is like that crowd. Like it's just weird. Like it's like they up there, with this Broadway shit looking like it's the Great Gatsby and stuff like that. I understand it's a different time period, but I'm just blown away at like how far away from that we are. Like I'm like, even some of the scenes that you see and the women and the clothes that they're putting on, I'm like, oh, look at them acting girly and feminine. Like when do you see that in 2023? You don't see that. All you see is you thought I said like you. That's that's what you see out here. That's the impression. But at the end of the day, I'm saying, you know, that's how it is with sisters. Like it's like they just think that they can go out here because they're women, especially black women. Like they can just play the victim and they can, talk about how terrible black men are, da 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 da. And then at the end of all that, when you catch one of them alone, now she sitting there wondering why you're not hollering. Oh, ain't nobody holler at me tonight. Like all that shit you was talking, and now you got the audacity to sit here and talk about ain't nobody checking for you. Are you fucking kidding me? Right? But this is what they do, and they don't learn from it. It's not like they're gonna stop doing all this. Oh, we the victims. Oh, black men are just so terrible. But then they only want to be with black men. They're only attracted to black men. You know what I mean? They only want some strapping mandingo. They only want a nigga that looks like Derek Jackson. You know what I mean? But then they'll sit there and just talk crazy. On black men. We get tired of that shit. We get tired. That's why in my opinion, it's easy for a lot of brothers to go out there and interracially date, even though we know about the anti-blackness that exists in the world. Because truth be told, our own women aren't how do I want to say this? Our own women don't talk much better than what would be expected of other races of women. They don't. You know what I mean? But the crazy thing is, whatever race, I mean, not that we're running around going out here getting with races, but whatever bullshit we may have to deal with, other races of people and the in-laws and all that other shit, like we don't, um, we don't get that from the women that we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like all the stuff, all the what's the word that I'm looking for? The apprehension, all the doubt, all the, I mean, it's like you can't even get from point A to point B with sisters. You don't have to worry about that when you hop the fence and whatnot. You know what I mean? That the women that are dealing with you, look at you a different way. All they care about, hey, I'm happy. He treats me well, right? And you top it off with being able to provide the lifestyle that they're accustomed to or greater. You're good. You know what I mean? But with sisters, even if you're there, it's like, oh, we're gonna turn you into the mister, right? I remember when Jeezy made that point. It's like, you got money and you got your shit together, and the only thing women want to call you is arrogant. So it's like you can't win. Like you cannot win with black women. It's like they constantly want to make it so that you can't win. And who wants to be in a game where they can't win? Right? Who like literally who wants to be that's like a dark skinned woman being in a room in a beauty contest full of a bunch of colorist niggas. Like if you can't win, why do you even want to be in the room? You know what I mean? And then like I said, what sisters, what they try to do is they try to get black men to, to hit you with the, you're so terrible. You all are so terrible as a group, blah, 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 blah. But we still want to be with you. But what you need to do is you need to sell us your manhood at a discount, right? Because there's all this patriarchal shit that I don't want to fucking deal with when it comes to you, but I still want you in my bed. I still want to have relations with you, right? And black men are saying no to that because we recognize that there's no real respect when it comes to that. And if you out here dealing with a woman that doesn't respect you, I mean, Lord help you if you go out there and you get her pregnant or you get married to her and now she's got the courts on her side. Oh, please. And then she's got all the voices of all this matriarchal fucking encouragement telling her to eviscerate you in court. Man, fuck that. Fuck that shit. But and then people want to talk about the black women being the enemy of black men, and it's like I mean I saw that in the trailer. Steven Spielberg is directing this movie, or one of the directors or producers or whatever the fuck it is. I'm like really, and it's black women never fucking catch on to it. They always, oh, we're being successful, we're being recognized, we're in the spotlight, we're being shown, blah blah, right, right. I saw comments talking about, I hope this elevates Fantasia's career in Hollywood, and talking about what's the freaking Chloe sister, I forget her damn name, Haley. Haley Bailey, what I mean? So she up there, and they're like, I hope this elevates her career. Why is it always gotta be some fuckery, man? It's like how they do black people when they do these movies. It's like, oh, you want an Emmy or a Grammy or an Oscar? Oh, we'll give it to you if you do a slave movie. How about The Color Purple, or how about Blind Side, or how about Monsters Ball where Halle Berry's getting fucked, or how about Training Day, instead of getting one for John Q, no, in Training Day, Denzel Washington playing a fucking dirty cop, an evil villain, always some negative ass shit. They want to put you up there. The Help. Be a fucking maid and make this white woman eat a pie full of shit, right? Always some subordinate role type of shit. Never no real awesome shit. I guess Black Panther was like the closest thing that we came to that. But it's always some like, I mean, just like I see the trailers and it reminds me of like some like Viking slave ship. All I hear is right. That's all I hear in the background. I'm like, oh, another fucking Viking slave ship movie. I'm like, here we fucking go with the woe is the black folks. You know what I mean? Like never like a happy time. Never, just always the struggle and the strife and the trials and tribulation. Oh God, this shit gets so fucking old. You know what I mean? And black women, oh man, they love being victims. They love just eating that shit up. You know what I mean? And then don't even realize like how like even that just like in my opinion just takes black women's like humanity away. You know what I mean? Because they're never like think about it. Like it's like all this fucking negativity, all this fucking like, oh, the black woman and you've been through so much, and y'all carry that shit when you leave the fucking movie theater. You know what I mean? And it's like, what man that has to go out here and get it out the mud in the world? What man wants to be with a woman that doesn't bring him any level of fucking, inner peace and shit like that? That doesn't brighten up his day. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's too much to ask because black women will be like, oh, well, it's because slavery and y'all niggas ain't do this and we attached to y'all and y'all lost the war and the race war and all this other shit. So you can't expect that from us, yada yada. Yeah, he'll say all that, but I'm just telling you, it gets to a point where like people just stop caring, or I should say, specifically, black men stop caring. I know there's black women that stop caring. Like they're like, look, I don't care about your struggles and your trials and tribulations. I'm just trying to enjoy life and be happy. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to enjoy some shit and be happy. I ain't trying to deal with all the fucking woe is us bullshit. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it still affects us. But like when people wear that shit on their sleeve, that shit is unattractive. You know what I mean? It's unattractive. People want to be able to smile and enjoy shit and go to, outdoor concerts and fucking, smoke some weed and fucking have sex on the beach and, pop some bottles and people want to do that shit. You know what I mean? I'm sitting there thinking about, the color purple and Danny Glow, you're black, you're ugly. I fucking sit there and think about that, and then she's looking at you like that. You know what I mean? All this does is set back black relationships back. I mean, it's all our shit is already fucked up, and it's like, oh, we're gonna do a remake and then label it with this tainted title, the color purple. We're gonna, which is the bruises of a woman after she gets her ass beat. Like, really? Like just perfect timing, right in the middle of the fucking gender war. Like they like this shit. This shit is not accidental. This shit is not accidental. Just like it's not an accident that they brought Cynthia G up there on Fox fucking Soul, Fox News, Fox of all like the okey doke that black people fall for. Like again, this is why I have my days where I just like don't say anything. I just fall back because everybody out here falls for the okey doke, men and women. You know what I mean? But the women are really hard headed on that shit. So you know, like I said, the women they'll go up there. They're gonna woe is us and all that. Even though this isn't even out, it's just the whole like the buzz around it and the fucking like the damn Broadway adaptation doesn't really have anything to do with the real movie, but they put enough in there. They got to throw it in the trailer. Evil black man. Again, the issue is no, we're not challenging. White supremacy isn't the problem. It's black patriarchy or just patriarchy in general. That's why I'm like, this, you look at the statistics. I'm like, yeah, black women the most unwed group in America. Black men are actually more married than black women. Shout out to Media Man again with the stats. So you just end up with black women just being this miserable group of people that nobody want to be with because they're miserable. and they want to be miserable, and they feed off of miserable energy and bond over being fucking miserable. And it's just no, no, and ain't nobody want to be with that. So all this, even like I said, the title itself, I'm like just opening up old wounds. It'll be more, oh, the black man, evil. Okay, okay, well, go run to Brad and Chad and all that other shit. If you can, go do that shit. Because I get tired of, I mean, it's just crazy. Like, it's like we're not even fucking with each other like that, and yet the only thing black women want to talk about is uh, some made up fucking relationship written by Alice Walker, who don't even like fucking men, of this evil black man that let black women tell it black men are dusty, always dusty, never had anything, but yet somehow you know the color purple got fucking Danny Glover living in the big house. You know what I mean? He living in a two story, I don't know if it's colonial or whatever, but he living in a big ass house, got all this fucking land, right? I'm not saying he didn't have any brothers that had that, but again, it's like it's the fucking 1920s or the 19 teens. And the only time you get a black man on the fucking screen and he actually has some, oh, the nigga gotta be evil. Like, I'm like, oh, see, here we go with this bullshit. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just I'm saying I'm grateful of the fact that now brothers, like, we see it for what it is, because we didn't see it when we were growing up. Maybe we were too young, but we didn't see it growing up. You know what I mean? We felt it, but we couldn't like identify it. Like, there was no language for it. We couldn't articulate. You know what I mean? But now, like, we know what it is. We know what the matriarchal enforcement, is, or reinforcement is, and how much white supremacy comes through and placates that to that bullshit. They're the ones that throw the monkey wrenches in the shit, and then they go, "Oh, black." It's like I forget who the comedian was, but it was like, it's like, he was making a joke about how black people will rob you. You know what I mean? Like, you'll move in, and you know the police will be outside and everything, and they'll come walking over. You know what I mean? Oh man, I heard you got robbed, and it was them. Man, I heard you got robbed, man. What they take? Man, they took my flat screen television, man. You know what I mean? They took my Rolexes. Nah, you don't say, right? They'll just be sitting right there. And that's how I see, like, white supremacy, right? Like, all this shit has to be greenlit. All this shit, they got to give this shit the thumbs up and the okay. That's why we keep getting these tired ass, slave, dusty, black people struggling type of fucking movie. That's why we keep getting that bullshit. They always got to mix that in there. Even if there is, like, some light at the end of the tunnel, a dim light at that, but they always got to throw some raggedy ass shit in there. And I mean, and then they got to get some black person to fucking validate. They got Quincy Jones, on this shit. Oh, we're gonna tell this story. Like, I don't even think that a lot of these people that are black that co-sign this, I don't even think they really realize what's going on, like, with black relationships, and how much this shit negatively affects, young people, or the idea of it, or the reinforcement, and then like, the whatever trickles down from the older generation that recognize what it is, and then it goes to the younger generation that doesn't really fully see the whole picture. You know what I mean? But you'll end up with some 14-year-old black female that, like, again, like, I'm like, really, we're bringing back the abusive black man. I'm like, we're bringing that back. I swear, like, this shit don't even make sense with sisters sometimes. Fathers are not in the home. Black men are not in the home. But when we are in the home, oh, we're all abusive and we're Danny Glover. Like you can't win. You cannot win. And that's my whole attitude towards the whole thing, because I'm like, why participate in a game that you can't win? You're never gonna be able to be, that awesome black man unless you fucking, subscribe to the matriarchy and taketh thy knee. Like that woman told Captain Solo and read him his rights. What are you talking about? In all matriarchies, the woman gives him his kingship. What are you talking about? And like she said, we're sat right up on that clip, and you can go and you can pull it up. As all my videos are up. She sat right up there. Yes, I have to acknowledge what he said. I was in a loving, benevolent relationship. You know what I mean? And I ruined that shit because I wasn't gonna do, what that nigga said on his say so. And I'm better off without that nigga. Quote unquote. I'm better off without that nigga. A loving, benevolent relationship just came out of her own mouth. Came out of her own fucking mouth. I was in a loving, benevolent relationship. Can't make this shit up. But yet, all y'all want to talk about or tell are the the Danny Glover situations. Man, I'm done. I'm so done. I'll come through and I'll speak on it, and then I'll go back into my bat cave. You know what I mean? But me, like, all that jumping up and down and being all hype and everything else like I was before. But no, because I know what it is now. This is what comes with maturity. You don't got to be hyped when you know what it is. That's why when I first came on and Cap first came on. Cap had already knew. He already knew what time it was because he's older than me, right? So he was already calm. Now I'm at the point where Cap was, where I'm like, no, 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 let them speak. Let them speak. The more they speak, I'm telling you, give them enough rope, they're gonna hang themselves. Watch, the contradiction is coming. Just wait, just wait. No, 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 wait. The contradiction is coming. Just wait. And you see this on, Kevin Samuels clips that are still floating around. I mean, they will contradict themselves in the same sentence. And I try to like figure out like where exactly this comes from. And it's like, black women, they, in my opinion, I just think that they just don't feel appreciated. They don't feel appreciated. They don't feel recognized. I'm not saying that black men have done the best job, in doing that, right? Because, it has to do with, media promotion and, seeing brothers jump up and down and everything. But that goddamn behavior and the matriarchal belief systems. Even without the expansion of the light skin universe and brothers thinking that they can hop the fence and go everywhere else, even if you remove all those women, you make it where black men only have eyes for sisters, we would still have the same problems because of these damn belief systems. My daughter will be president and my son will be a good black man. The fuck is that? You know what I mean? I don't mind allowing a man to believe that he's in control. Anytime I come across a man doing better than me, I have to reevaluate myself. A black man can't do anything without the strength of a black woman. These are quotes over the years from being online. You see what I'm saying? So when y'all be running around talking the color purple, but yet we have this super strong legacy of matriarchal mindset in the black community, like the shit doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. When y'all running around talking about the Wombiverse, divine female principles in ancient Africa, we was ruling shit, all this other stuff, and then you get to the 1920s and it's Danny Glover and the abuses of black men, and black women withstood the abuses of black men until we got to the 1970s and freaking feminism, Gloria Steinem came through, and all of a sudden, then black women recognized their true selves, and then 1985 they had to drop the color purple to make a call to all the sisters out here. Like, Man, y'all drank the Kool-Aid, man. I'm gonna just tell y'all. Y'all drank the goddamn Kool-Aid. And if you ask me, that just further exacerbated, the way, and we could say that it was a double-edged sword, what I mean? Because, they got y'all to believe all this feminism bullshit. And then at the same time, and many people have pointed this out, you got, telling you don't need a man, all this other stuff at the same time that they're literally pumping out images of black men with non-black women, who are feminine and girly and everything else. And, the black men don't have anything to do with why those women are feminine and girly. But they're like, you can have her. You can have her. At the same time that they're telling you don't need a man, and, feminism this and feminism that, and black men are abusive and all this other shit. And now we've got at least 30 years of black men thinking that they have access to more feminine, fit, cooperative, non-black women. Just off of the strength of the way that it's promoted. You see Bronny James, you see that shit. And people say, well, most black men are not in the position of Bronny James. You're 100% right. But again, don't sit up in here and contradict yourself, because y'all point out the fact that everywhere you go, you see black men in interracial relationships. I say the same thing to the white dudes. White dudes be at bitching, talking about, our women don't want you, da 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 da, and then 5 minutes later, they're running around shooting up the supermarket because of the great replacement and black men stealing all the white women. Like, they can't make up their mind. They got whole websites, chimpout.com, freaking, what do they like to say? What do they like to say? Fucking, what is it? Damn, I can't think of what is it. Something coal, pay the toll. What the fuck is that shit? I'm losing my train of thought. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Mud shark this, mud shark that. I thought niggas wasn't fucking with white women. So where's all this shit coming from? Right? The numbers aren't there, right? Right? We don't see this shit, right? Like, again, going back to the fact that, these statistics and shit like that, and that shit doesn't cover, relationships that nobody doesn't know about. The fucking is going on. I said the same thing about the Indian and the Muslim women and shit. That shit goes on. It's just nobody talks about it. That Mississippi masala shit, that shit goes on. But I'm just saying that just the way that I just feel like black women have just been duped, man. It's nuts. And they don't get it. They still don't see it. They still out there thinking like, and I'm like, what is the goal? Like, what do you think? You're going to like victim your way into getting what you want from black men? You think you're just going to go up there and you're going to vilify black men and talk about how terrible they are, and that's going to make them want to be with you, right? Because again, the majority of y'all still only want to deal with brothers. You know what I mean? Like, I look at it like I actually have more respect for the women that are divesting, right? And say that they're not dealing with black men, and they don't deal with black men. Like, they'll say black men are horrible. Okay, fine. And I'm not dealing with black men. Okay, more respect to you. But you got women out here that they want to get on the bandwagon of dogging out black men, and then turn right around and be like, I only want to be with a black man. I'm like, what is the purpose of that? The only purpose that I can see is, again, trying to get black men to sell their manhood at a discount. You're a terrible person, and you should feel guilty about being such a terrible person, and therefore I should get everything that I want out of you because you're a black man and you wear this scarlet letter of shame because of all the horrendous things that black men have done, to black women, right? Again, reminds me of, that white guy that told me about, how, he was telling his girlfriend, he was like, look, you can tell your mom and your pops about every time we get in a fight, but I hope that you tell them about every time I buy you flowers or I take you to dinner and all that other stuff. I hope that you do that. Because if you don't do that, then eventually they're going to start taking your side. They're not going to listen to anything I have to say, and then I become the bad guy, and then that makes the relationship more difficult to me, to the point that I won't want to be in it. I remember when he laid that sucker, I was like, yeah, that's a good point. I was like, yeah, if she's going, because it brings more balance to the table. They'll say, oh, well, maybe you and Joey just had a fight or some shit like that, right? As opposed to it being like, just think about the daughter, every time a bad thing happens, she runs to her parents talking about, Joey did this to me, Joey didn't call me back, Joey went out with his friends, right? They're gonna start, all they hear is a negative. They're gonna think, this motherfucker, why are you even with him? That when I see him, dad's all mad, he's got a bat, he ready to crack Joey up beside the head. He don't know about the flowers, he don't know about the trip, he don't know about the jewelry, right? He don't know about the stuffed teddy bear, at her job. He don't know about that. All he knows about is all the shit that she fucking complained. You know? And y'all get suckered. Y'all really get suckered. Y'all be out here just fucking, they're so terrible. Oh yeah, running around, running, try to tell other races of women, oh yeah, yeah, that's right, girl, yeah, black men is so terrible. Next thing you know, she over there sucking his dick. Y'all stupid, man. Y'all just so stupid with the shit. And I don't want to like just keep going and belaboring the point, but I just, this is why I say, like, I'm like, nah, ain't no point in making videos about this shit, because they want to believe, they want to believe this shit, and it's just so bad. Like, it's a part of the culture now. That's what makes it so bad. Like, it's part of the culture. Shitting on black men is a part of the culture. Being the black woman victim and not acknowledging anything that black women do, that's a part of the culture. Which is why every time, even when a woman exposes it, the women, they have a hard time digesting this shit. Just like, you'll have black women running around, black on black violence. These black men, they violent in the community. And how many black men are dead because a black woman made a phone call? Oh, the black woman is not protected. But how many black men are dead because a black woman made a phone call? Because the cousins or the brother or the boyfriend pulled up to the bus stop. You see, y'all don't want to talk about that. Y'all don't want to talk about, black female proxy violence. You just want to talk about, who's the perpetrator of the violence. Oh, see, it was black males that did it. Oh, we ain't got nothing to do with that, when the whole interaction was because of you running your fucking mouth. It's shit like that. Like, we get tired of it because y'all don't own nothing. Nothing. Not even 50% of the shit that is blatantly you. Y'all don't want to own the shit. You know what I mean? Or I love, like when y'all get backed into a corner and then you make these half-ass pleas, like it's like the scales of justice aren't even balanced. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've been dumping on one side, oh, black men, black men, black men, black men, black. Okay, fine. I'll acknowledge this 1 shilling, and then you like drop like literally one shilling on the fucking scale, and the scale doesn't even budge. You know what I mean? There, I acknowledged our wrongdoing. Just one little thing. It's like, nah, what about all the other shit? Nigga, you asking for too much. We're tired. That's all I can say. Like, we're fucking tired as black men of the vilification. Y'all can say what you want about black men swirling, interracially dating, colorism, self-hate, dealing with racism on the other side of the fence, all that other shit. I hear you. I hear you. I have my own reservations about fence jumping. You know what I mean? But like, in terms of the day to day getting beat over the head, the negativity that comes from y'all as a collective, not individually, but as a collective, tired of that shit, yo. Tired of it. Especially when y'all supposed to be like our female counterparts. Y'all supposed to be our women and all this other stuff. Y'all don't say nothing positive. And again, a lot of the negative interactions that y'all have, it's literally with like the 5 niggas in the community that are the only ones that are running through all the bitches in the neighborhood. That's why you see shit like, the Nick Cannon and Shawty Low and Future and fucking, who else? What other celebrities? All these niggas, Country Wayne and all this other shit. All these niggas that got multiple, all y'all fucking the same nigga. And that's why y'all got the same stories. He told me this. That nigga lied to me. Da, 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 da. Yeah, you and the other 9 bitches. You know what I mean? But hey, what can we say about that shit? You know what I mean? I'm not wearing that scarlet letter. Like if I had the sound effect of Velcro right now, I'd tear it off. Like you hear the tearing sound. I'm not wearing that scarlet letter no more. I'm like y'all ain't even fucking with a lot of us. And we gotta sit around and we gotta hear about, the Danny Glovers of the world and whatnot. And then the real sad part is when you really look at it, like most of these chicks that are out here getting pregnant by dudes, they not even fucking with a nigga that's in Danny Glover's position. That nigga had a house, that nigga was established. Y'all can say what y'all want, about his atrocious behavior in the movie, but I'm saying the nigga had his shit together. And again, there's always the vilification of that and acting like, we be better off with Dusties because Dusties are emotionally supportive and this, that, and the third. Then turn around and then complain about the fact that the Dusty can't do anything to you because he doesn't have his finances in order. But I'm just saying, like, most of y'all that are out here that got, kids, again, reinforced by pretty much any random video that you want to pull up on Kevin Samuel's, channel. There's more women that called in Kevin Samuel's show that were not married to the men, didn't have a shit together, and that's what y'all be dealing with. Y'all ain't even getting with the Danny Glover type, quiet as it's kept. That's the crazy part. So like I said, we can't win anyway, and that's why I'm just like, I'm not surprised. I don't think a Dr. T. Hassan Johnson seminar, and I love Dr. T. Johnson's material, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, if we want to just kind of like put the shit out there for documentation purposes and, sort of like cover our asses, like we recognize what this is, but it's not going to change any of these women's behaviors because it's a belief system. It's gone on for too long. It's baked into their psyche. And that's why, they keep saying that they want it to be this way. They want to be victims. They don't want it to be any other way where they would be held accountable and all that. And they would have to drop a lot of shit and act right and behave and all. They don't want to do all that. They want to justify the belligerence. They want to justify the attitude. They want to justify all that shit. All I'm saying is I'm not going to be around ground zero, when they doing they shit. I'm just not. You know what I mean? I'm like, where's Pete? Not over here, not around y'all. You know, I can't do it. I told y'all that, about, sister I was dating, and, I remember sitting in the kitchen, and when she made that statement, she was, her husband had adopted the daughter, and, she was like, we don't talk about stepchildren, right? Man, damn near hairs on the back of my neck went up. I damn near blew a gasket. And it's that type of shit, man. It's like the audacity of y'all. I mean, y'all don't want to own shit, but you want to keep painting these narratives. Oh, the evil black man. Oh, yeah, okay. And again, y'all already been made to look like fools with the, these Filipino women, they don't speak English, and all, just anyway. Like I said, I hate to sit there and throw up swirl and interracial relationships and everything, but that's where shit is going right now. And I hate it because it's like, if the goal of white supremacy is to dilute the black community, oh yeah, the mission accomplished. I mean, they've done a tremendous job at doing that. You know. So, I mean, what more else can I say? Anyway, that's all I gotta say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe. And I want to give a. I'm gonna make a separate video, but I want to thank a lot of the people who have contributed, made donations. Um, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do it because either I'm just going to say first names. I'm probably just going to say first names because some people got their stuff on like some people got their government name, other people got their like logo or like their like their pseudo name or whatever. So I'm just going to try to go through to like if I do say anything, it's not going to be anything identifying. Like if I'm like shout out to Quincy. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all don't know who the fuck Quincy is, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So I was thinking about doing that, but yeah. I didn't intend on making this video. I'm I just I said let me go over there and watch this damn trailer. I'm watching the trailer and I'm just like, why are we bringing this shit up? Can we get a positive movie? Can we go back to like movies like The Best Man, Jump the Broom? I don't know. Anything but this shit. You know what I mean? Some positive shit. Always got to be some black people struggling type shit. So tired of that crap. Anyway, let me shut up. That's my video. SWP out.